Ohio's custody and family courts operate as high-pressure systems. Lives, assets, and the custody of children are subjected to rigorous adversarial stress. To navigate this volatility when children are involved, judges appoint a guardian ad litem, or GAL. Their mandate is to act as an independent investigator to help the court determine the best interest of the child. This role is codified primarily by Ohio Rule of Superintendents 48 and Revised Code 2151.281, which grant the GAL broad access to medical records, school files, and private homes. Because judges rely heavily on these findings, GALs wield immense influence over case outcomes. A structural friction emerges when a GAL conducts a superficial or bare-bones investigation, missing critical context while still delivering a highly consequential recommendation. When faced with an incomplete report, litigants and junior attorneys often react intuitively. They attack the GAL's character or argue the unfairness of the situation rather than leveraging strict procedural law. Holding a GAL accountable requires navigating three specific structural vectors: evidentiary, financiary, and administrative. If these procedures are not synchronized with the court's timeline, the litigant may lose the ability to challenge a deficient investigation entirely. The evidentiary path begins with Rule 48, Section D. This section outlines a GAL's minimum duties, such as interviewing the child without parents present, visiting the proposed residence, and consulting medical or school personnel. The legal baseline for challenging these duties was established in the 2012 appellate case Nolan v. Nolan. The court determined that a severely deficient investigation permits a trial judge to reject a GAL's report and testimony. The court categorized this deficiency as a bare-bones investigation, specifically citing the failure to conduct home visits, the failure to talk to the child alone, or ignoring medical providers entirely. Later cases like In re Ma P and Corey v. Corey exposed a procedural barrier for attorneys relying on Nolan. Ohio's rules of superintendents are administrative guidelines. They lack the substantive force of law. Because they lack substantive force, a GAL violating a superintendent's rule does not automatically render their testimony or report legally inadmissible. This distinction derails trials when counsel points out rule violations during cross-examination but fails to place a formal objection on the record against the report actually entering into evidence. On appeal, this omission is disastrous. Without a formal objection to admissibility, the appellate court categorizes the dispute as an argument over the weight of the evidence. Trial judges are granted broad deference to weigh evidence, which effectively protects their reliance on the deficient report. To neutralize a superficial investigation, trial counsel must formally object to the admissibility of the report pre-trial. This forces the judge to make a ruling on the record, allowing for an abuse of discretion argument on appeal. The second vector deals with the financial reality of court-appointed experts. Under Rule 48, Section H, the court has the authority to mandate that litigants pay deposits and installment fees for a GAL services. Courts enforce these payments through contempt of court proceedings or by issuing lump sum judgments against parties who fail to pay. Appointment orders typically specify that the court will make a final determination of the allocation of these fees only at the final hearing. This specific timeline creates a procedural conflict for anyone wishing to contest the billing earlier. In a recent Ohio Supreme Court case, a litigant was ordered to pay over $17,000 in outstanding fees right before a trial was scheduled to begin. The litigant attempted to appeal this fee order immediately, seeking to halt the divorce proceedings to address the financial dispute. This strategy failed due to the distinction between an interlocutory order, a temporary ruling made while a case is ongoing, and a final appealable order. The Supreme Court ruled that an order to pay GAL fees issued without a final decision on custody is interlocutory. This means the appellate court lacks the jurisdiction to hear the fee dispute while the case is active. Attempting to litigate GAL fees mid-trial is a procedural dead end. Practitioners must preserve their fee objections on the record, but they must wait until the final case judgment is issued before seeking appellate relief. The final vector governs administrative grievances. When a GAL fails to perform, litigants often file a formal complaint with the state's Office of Disciplinary Counsel, or ODC. This tactic misconstrues the ODC's purpose. The agency exists to protect the public from unethical lawyers. It does not serve as a mechanism to litigate the merits of a family law case. State disciplinary guidelines clarify that the grievance process will not force a GAL to withdraw, nor will it overturn a judicial officer's decisions. Filing an ODC grievance in the middle of a case does not alter the immediate trajectory of the proceedings or remove the GAL. The correct administrative path is defined by Rule 48, Section J. This requires local courts to maintain their own internal processes for accepting and considering comments regarding GAL performance. This mechanism routes performance complaints directly to the court's administrative judge for localized disposition. Using state disciplinary boards for immediate relief is strategically ineffective. To impact the current case environment, litigants must utilize the local court's Rule 48 channels. A guardian ad litem's failure to perform their duties is only actionable if the litigant invokes the correct procedural rule within the specific timeframe required by law. Regarding evidence, counsel must formally object to admissibility pre-trial. Regarding fees, attorneys must build the record, holding the appeal until the final custody judgment. And regarding conduct, complaints must route through local court channels instead of the state disciplinary office. Ohio's rules of superintendents provide the standards for GAL investigations, but they do not enforce themselves. These rules offer no protection to litigants who fail to place the correct, timely objections on the record. In the Ohio family court system, accountability depends on whether an attorney translates a GAL's investigative failures into a specific and preserved legal record. Successful appeals require proving that a trial court was given and then ignored a timely objection.